Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. My guest today is really one of my favorite people to talk to. He's been on the site a few times with his past releases with 3.2, and we always have a great time. You may also know him from his work with bands like Alliance, the Great Kin Band, and many others. But he's back now with a new prog group called 6x6 that also features Ian Crichton from Saga on guitar, Nigel Glockler from Saxon on drums, and on bass and vocals, of course, the one and only Robert Berry. Welcome back, Robert.
Hey, good to see you, Jeff. I said this before when I talked to you. Sounds like I can't keep a job.
I know you can look at that a few ways as we bounce through all the projects.
Yeah.
Well, and let's start at the beginning of this new band, 6x6. I mean, coming off two great records with 3.2, how did the idea of working with Ian and Nigel come up?
3.2 for me was a dream come true, right? Working with Keith Emerson. Then, of course, during the recording of The Rules Had Changed, we lost him with very sad, for very sad reasons. It did so well, the record company said, hey, we can't tell you how well it did, but we have Whitesnake, we have Yes, we have Stick, we have everybody. You did really well. We need a follow-up album. I said, I don't want to do one. Keith's gone. And they said, don't you have any other songs? I said, well, I got the one. So I did that album, but that was it. And my manager, Nick, we were talking, he goes, well, what are you going to do? You're not going to do 3.2? I said, no, that's part of my history. The band, 3.2 with Andrew Collier, Paul Keller, Jimmy Keegan, we'll play, but there'd be no new material from that. He goes, that's it? I said, well, be honest with you, I'd like to find a guitar player and go in that direction, but I wouldn't know where to start to find a guy like Keith Emerson that has amazing parts that I can make songs out of. Keith didn't write the whole song. He had these bits that were so Emerson-like that you couldn't resist them, and they just made a great song. I made it around his great parts. Nick called me back, my manager, the next day. He goes, what about Ian Crichton? And I said, wow. I said, I wouldn't have thought of that. I'm thinking, how do we put Jeff back and put them all together, make a Frankenstein monster? I said, oh my God, I don't know Ian, but he's perfect. He plays parts. He doesn't just do power chords and ripping solos. He plays incredible. His tone is great. He goes, let me see what I can do. Finds Ian. Ian's very interested in talking to me. Evidently, he must have been a big fan of mine. That's all I can figure. Followed by every move. No, he was really interested. We just hit it off. It was just so organic and natural. He sent me a few things, bits, like the Emerson, the little bits of guitar and this and that. I went, oh my God. And a song just flew out of me. The first one was called Yearning To Fly. The record company said, oh, we're not signing anybody. Sent him 4 songs, including Yearning To Fly. Yearning To Fly is what got us signed. Yearning To Fly was the first single. I'm probably ruining all the questions you have to ask, but that's how
I got plenty.
The first song, was the one that opened up all the doors. And then, of course, the video came out and everybody liked it. But more importantly, I felt like everybody wants us to do well. I've never had that before. They're all like, oh man, this is great, but this has to happen again with the album.
And, again, we mentioned the original 3 back in the 80s, yourself, Keith Emerson, Carl Palmer. 6x6 is very much in the same vein of that trio format, again, with the exception of being based on guitar rather than on piano. What is it about playing in a trio that really suits your songs?
I think it has to do with who I consider the main guy. I mean, I might do a lot of it. I record it, I mix it. I write the lyrics, the melodies, the stuff, and some of the chords, the songs. But the main guy in that 3 band was Emerson. He had the distinctive style that was unique to, and I don't care who tries to copy anything else. You can tell when Keith Emerson's playing. It just has this thing. It's a style and a sound and everything. Well, Ian Crichton is that secret ingredient to 6x6. He's got that thing where when you hear him and that tone and those parts, you might think of a couple guys, but when you really hone in on it, I go, oh yeah, that's only Ian Crichton. He just has that magic. And for me, that's the secret ingredient. I like to work around it. You add some more people in that bring more things to the stew, let's say. And a lot of times it's just too much. Even your biggest bands, and I'm going to go back to the Beatles. There was really two songwriters, as great as Harrison was, and he had great songs, but the bulk of it was two guys working together. All kinds of bands. A lot of them only have one songwriter in the band. You know, Dennis DeYoung, I guess, thought he was the only songwriter in SiX. But really, you know, there's that magic ingredient. Now, Nigel is a great writer too. We wrote all the songs before, you know, Ian and I said, we got to get the right drummer. And I said, I worked with Nigel back in GTR. He's a heavy hitter, but he loves prog music. The combination, and Ian said, well, we've been touring. I've seen him before. I don't know him well. But when we added him, it gave it that foundation, a heavy hitting, solid thing to base a three-piece band off of. Because if you have a guy that's all over the place and not holding it down, it's hard for the main instrumentalist to really take off without some kind of strong foundation. And I say Nigel is sort of like adding Cozy Powell to ELP or Alan White to Yes. You know, they brought in a certain element of really solid, smacking them hard, that it was just a driving force, you know.
Yeah, and musically, it's like I'm listening to these songs and they really do represent the best of the three of you. I mean, like I said, Ian's the centerpiece and his guitar just soars. And I think, first of all, it shows just what an underrated band Saga has been all of these years. You know,
Well,
like
Saga,
you said,
now, I have to say, Saga is based on keyboards.
Yep.
And Ian is fitting into that. Now, our idea was, let's open up the vast field of reckless abandonment on guitar and see what you come up with. And that's why it's the same with the lyrics, you know. There was this openness to the process, but go ahead, I won't interrupt anymore.
Well, what I was gonna say is, you know, when you got the bits from Ian and you were putting a song around it, I mean, you were familiar already with Nigel, you know, did you try to write to their strengths, or did you just build off of what Ian had, knowing that these guys will bring this all together?
I like a heavy hitting, solid drummer. And I've worked with a couple of them in my life. Simon Phillips did some things with me on an ELP tribute and stuff. He's incredible. David Lauser from Sammy Hagar's band, who's in Alliance and December people with me. Heavy hitter. I can name a few other guys that are just incredible. And then I could name a couple that are kind of light and, you know, waffly and stuff. And it just never worked for me. So I wasn't writing for Nigel, but Nigel was number one choice in the back of my mind. Oh man, if Nigel would do it. And I know he's in Saxon and they're still huge in Europe, you know, but I don't know. I just felt that he was the right guy from day one. And we've thrown some other names around, you know, Ian and I. I forget the exact question, but I didn't write for them. But of course, I wanted for someone to be their best, it has to come from them. So those really hard parts of music and solos and everything else, it has to come from Ian. I can't say, well, here's a part I want you to play a solo on. I want to get that from him and work it into the song. Most of the things he sent me would be like introductions, some parts to put into the verse and then the solo sections. And then I sort of wrote everything else like a big puzzle piece around it. But he even said to me, he goes, man, they're on tour, Saga. He goes, God, work this stuff back up here. Man, this Saga stuff. And I said, you know why that's, and it's not hard for him. He's been doing it for 40 years. But you know why that's more difficult than SiX is for you? Because SiX comes out of your mind and your fingers. It's what you would do naturally. Saga, you're playing with the keyboards and doing things. I'm sure he's designing his own parts, but it has to match the keyboard. So he's writing his stuff to match them too. Everything is based around Ian's guitar. So,
and I've always loved your lyrics. I mean, to me, there's a depth and a positivity to your lyrics that always hits on many levels. And on this record, for me, tracks like, you know, Reason to Feel Calm Again and Skyfall feel like a reaction to what the world's been going through over the past few years. Well, talk a little bit about what's inspired you lyrically on this record, because the lyrics, I think, along with Ian, are really the stars of this record.
That's cool. I will say that Ian opened me up a little bit when we first started talking, and he said, yeah, I love those 3.2. I love the stuff you're doing. He goes, I like it when the lyrics are a little psychedelic. He said, that wasn't, my thing. My thing is, like you say, very positive, and trying to say, if you can get from point A to point B, fail or succeed, you're still moving forward, kind of stuff, And I thought about it. I thought of psychedelic, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to make that third round when I try to make everything make sense, because lyrics kind of pour out of me, and a lot of times there'll be placeholders that sort of fit but don't have quite the right meaning, or they sound really good to the ear, and I always revise those the second round when I'm doing the vocals and try to make sure it all is congruent and blends. But then a lot of times at that point I'll look at the lyrics and go, okay, this has to all be first person, second person. It has to be, the story has to flow. I didn't do that this time. I said, you know what? I'm going to leave it, whatever it is. And I try not to analyze that after that, because to me, that's the psychedelic part, let's say, where, okay, I didn't cinch it up so tight. Sort of like Ian's guitar style. You don't have to cinch it up so tight with Saga. It can be open. You got noise. You got this crazy stuff in the next single that's coming out. I just left it a little more open, because to me, it did mean the right thing. I just thought maybe to you, the line wouldn't follow through unless I, fixed it up and really, but I haven't found that to be the case. And you're the first one that says the lyrics are one of the stars of the album. So obviously it's still getting across, but I don't want to think about it too much. I don't want to analyze it.
Well, it's funny because you talk about the lyrics and that you didn't try to cinch them up and tighten them. But one really cool thing with the band is you guys have a companion graphic novel coming out, sort of based loosely on a through line of the records. Talk a little bit about how that came about.
I was contacted by this guy who's working with Peter Gabriel, Steve Hackett, working with one of the guys from Star Trek, doing these graphic novels. And he was a fan of the music, 3.2. He got a hold of his email during the Third Impression, the last album, with Keith, and said, have you ever thought about doing a graphic novel? I love your music. Oh, well, put that in the file there. Oh, interesting. Well, this thing with Ian and Nigel, I'm feeling so excited about it because I listened to it. For me, it stood the test of time. It's got all the stuff I love that there was Steve Howe and Keith Emerson, all those little bits. And as all the stuff I love doing with Gary Peel and David Lauser and Alliance, the hard driving, powerful guitar stuff, it's got all those. And then it has its own thing that I can't really explain. And I thought, wow, maybe this is the time. So JC Baez is his name. Sent me an email. Hey, you still interested in this? He goes, yes, I'm doing a show with Steve Hackett pretty soon in LA. Let's talk about this. We talked. He started drawing, sent me a few drawings. I'm like, wow, this guy is the real deal. They're amazing. He says, I need a story. I've never written a story before, like a rock opera. I said, give me a week to think about this. I sat down and I took the songs and I changed the order of two of them from what's on the album to be a little bit different. And just like the songs and the lyrics from this album, it just flowed out. A week later, I had a story about a guy who sees ugliness and destruction in the world, but it's really him not influencing the circle of that he can reach in his life in a positive way. He just sees what I call contrarians, right? Oh no, bad. Oh. Everybody's arguing now, talking about lyrics. Everybody has their own opinion and they can't find the middle ground. I don't have to agree with you to find the middle ground. So yeah, I can understand why you think that, right? That's the way I am, right? So this guy travels through all this stuff. All these war through demons, all this stuff through these songs, and comes out the other side realizing it's his own mind that is negative, and that sees darkness, and all of a sudden he's seeing that other people take their circle of influence and do some good, because that's all we can do. That little circle of, well, you're farther away from me than my circle of influence, but because of Zoom, we can influence more. We can do some real good with our friends, our homeless in our immediate area, whatever it is in that circle of influence. He realizes that. And I got the story done. I'm like, what's going on with me? Why is this stuff? I'm so excited about it, energized. I sent it to JC. He goes, wow. And he does these graphic novels. He goes, that's a great story. And he starts drawing. He's sending me 2 pages a day. And then that's the roughs. And even Rebecca's going, wow, this guy's really good with the roughs. Then he does them in ink and gets them darkened in and all stuff. And oh, wow. And then he sends them to the colorist. He has 3 different guys doing coloring on this thing. And I get him back. I'm like, oh my God, it came alive. He's almost half the way through. We have about 6 weeks till it has to go to print. He's making it happen. I've never been involved in anything like that. It's an honest to goodness rock opera kind of in a graphic novel. The songs fit it so well, especially Reason to Feel Calm Again. Things that people haven't heard, Live Forever, right in the middle of it, a little palette cleansing acoustic piece. And then just really, it fits. You'll see.
I can't wait to check it out. I'm very excited to see that when it comes out.
Just like the songs were written, Ian sends me little bits. The song is like, wow, where'd that come from? It was nothing, 10 minutes ago. And then a couple hours later, so the graphic novel turned out the same way with the story and how the songs actually fit together, which wasn't the plan when I wrote them.
And what do the 3 of you foresee for 6x6? Is this going to be a continuing thing that goes on in between all the other stuff you were doing? Or was this just, let's see what happens and we'll go from there?
Nigel will always have Saxon. They're playing, right now, but they don't play that much. Ian will always have Saga. They've just done another 6 shows. They did 4 a month ago. They maybe have a couple more down the road. Plenty of time for 6x6 to play. I'll always have my 3.2, which is like the Prague stock, live at Prague stock DVDs. My history working with Steve Howe, Keith Emerson, Jeff Gaudiosi, everybody I've worked with, we play that. I'll always have that. And we decided we have a 3-record deal. We're going to do this as a real band. We're going to take it out, and who knows? We might be as big as the Beatles.
Fingers crossed.
McCartney will snuff that out right away.
And taking it on the road, what have you kind of in your mind sort of put together what a live 6x6 show would look like? Would you bring in stuff from your collective past, or just kind of stick to the present and the future?
There's a very different mindset on that. I think we'd be cheating our audience, who we owe a responsibility for having longevity in this business, without playing a little bit of Wind 'Em Up, segue into the best Saxon tune, segue into either a little bit of Desi La Vida or Talking About from 3. I'd like to do a little 6-minute thing right before we do our last song, right? And I think people would love it. Ian says, not going to happen. Because I want this to be 6x6. He's so excited about it. I want us to have our own identity. But we'll discuss it more when we're talking about a tour early next year. We'll just see how everybody feels, And my wish is that we will do a little fragment of everybody's history, even if it's a 3-minute song, right? Bing, bang, boom. We have a 3-record deal, so we definitely want to tour. The record company is super positive. We got the best email from Thomas, the president of Inside Out. And from what I know him a little bit, but what I've heard, he never sends this kind of email to anybody. But it was really good, and he's really up on it. It's going to go on, at least for 6 years for 3 albums.
And I probably should have asked this at the very beginning, but where does the name 6x6 come from?
That's sort of interesting too. We had a list of about 100 names on a piece of paper, and every one of them was taken. Didn't matter what. And Nigel come, hey, what about this? Oh, I looked at it, taken, right? And if they're taken, I mean, taken by bands that have maybe a couple hundred fans or Facebook followers, something that's not that big. I found that 6'6" in something I was reading was the length of human DNA. I went, oh, that is perfect for what I love. That's a positive thing. Human DNA, yeah. I look it up. A band had it, but I'd sent it to the guys first. They all loved it. And a band had it that was, I think it might be a hip hop pop band or something, had enough followers we didn't want to do it. The reason I first came up with it, because I liked the way the S in Saxon and Saga looks to start, and I liked the way the X looks in Saxon. I thought, oh, look at that graphic, that X, oh man. So SiX, oh, it has both, the S and X. So I thought, we talked about it, and I said, what about 6x6? And Ian said, you know, we have 2 eyes, 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 balls, you know. and he goes, I like it. Let's do it. He goes, and then, and really, Ian was the deciding factor, because he said, ladies and gentlemen, 6x6. Just like he goes, it sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Said, yeah, it does. Means nothing, but it sounds good. You know? So that's how it happened.
For you personally, I mean, you've worked pretty steadily over the past 40 years, without a doubt. But in the past 4 or 5 years, really since, the rules have changed, the first 3.2 record, it kind of seems like there's been more of a renewed spotlight. The 3.2 records went over very well in the subsequent tours. And you also had that spotlight early in your career with, the remnants of GTR and then the original 3. Does it feel different now? I mean, like, do you kind of sit back and enjoy it more now?
I have a really lousy theory about success. You're only successful to yourself if you've reached that goal that you put up there, right? My goal up here was to have 3 or 4 songs that were hits on the radio that I could go out and play every summer, the outside shows for 3 months. And people, that was a period of their life that they resonated with that, like Greg Kinn's The Breakup Song. Anybody goes, oh, I know that song, right? I didn't get that. I'm also a firm believer in, I'd rather wonder what I'm getting for Christmas than open the present. So it's a little bit like that for me. It keeps me writing, recording, wanting to reach that 4 songs that I get to play, even if it's one. If I get to play them every summer, I'm good. I don't feel the success, but I do feel the longevity of being able to make a living staying in music. And I feel a big responsibility to anybody that likes my music to do the best job I can, especially on the 3.2 tours, where it was 2 hours of my history, which I was uncomfortable doing at first. But after people come up with everything from an old Hush album from '79 to sign and say, hey, that was part of my life, I felt different about it. I felt like I had influenced that circle that I could reach in a nice, positive way. So I don't feel successful. I feel more excited about this than I have since 1988. I want to be successful with this, but even if it was the Beatles, right? I probably would say, well, I don't have those 4 songs I can go out and play every. But I'm not a guy that can coast and can relax until I'm forced to. If they take off a leg, maybe I won't be able to stand on stage anymore, but I'll still be up there. If they cut off the fingers, well, I can't play. I can still sing. I mean, it's all got to move forward. What can I do tomorrow is my motto. And I just feel like I'm probably doing more right now than ever. The studio's really busy. There's a vocal session right now that I've stopped while Tom, the vocal producer here, is working with her, Vivian. And then I have a prog band I'm producing the next 2 weeks, on top of lots of interviews and PR stuff, the graphic novel, and the album's out August 19th. We have another single coming out August 5th, which I'm really excited about. And I'll ask you a question. This next single is China. You've heard the album.
Yes.
As you know, and you've said, I write very positive lyrics. That this is not against the Chinese people whatsoever, but it's against, it's a comment on the Chinese government, because they're slowly infiltrating the world. And this song says, we see you, We got to stop
It's a
this.
very different song for you, because
It
when I
is.
first heard it, I had to kind of go back and listen to it again. So I'm like, that's very different from what you usually write.
Yes, and it's coming out as a third single, which is very different. It's the hardest rock part of 6 by 6. And you've heard like Reason to Feel Calm Again, you know, the really musical stuff we got going on. I can't wait for people to hear that song. That bagpipe guitar that Ian does, how'd you get that sound? He goes, I just turned it back and it was, oh God, it's just amazing, right? But China is either going to chase people away because it's harder rock than they want, or they're going to go, I'm glad they're taking that edge. And now let's see what else they have on the album. We'll see. Like you said, you have to listen to it again. Like, what the hell?
Well, we've been spending some time here with Robert Berry. The band and the record are both called 6 by 6, out everywhere on August 19th. The graphic novel to follow sometime around the end of September. Robert, congratulations. It's a great record. The three of you did an amazing job on it, and just best of luck with the record.
We're all excited. We're right in the heat of the moment right now, right? It's really pretty cool. The main thing is, like I said, I think people want us to be successful. They know it's an honest album. It's an honest group of guys that are working hard and want to get out and play. So I appreciate your help on it. I really do.
Anytime, my friend. You know that. Thank you so much. We will talk again soon. Hopefully we can catch you on the road this time around.
I hope so. It'd be good to see you. And take care of my guitars back there, okay?
You got it. Thank you, Robert.
See you later, Jeff.